Hello, everybody. My name is Priit Timson. I'm Cloud Services Architect from Remand, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Today, I will talk about identity, about passwordless authentication, and also about different Azure AD authentication methods that are involved with passwordless authentication, and maybe also we will show some demos. So have different YubiKeys. So our main focus is on the YubiKey passwordless authentication, and we will also have a few demos. I have here 3 different types of YubiKey keys. I have Series 5 USB-A key. I have the newest PO, YubiKey PO. C, and also I have a little nano YubiKey USB-C. So we will show the demos also, and also we'll do a demo about Microsoft Authenticator, passwordless authentication, and we will talk about identity at all. So to begin, identity is very important thing for the organizations to protect the data. So for nowadays, I hope that everybody is already using multi-factor authentication because this is the easiest and cheapest way to get protection for the identities that organizational users are using. So I hope that everybody is already using it because a lot of attacks are phishing attacks that are meant to steal the user's credentials and then already to start stealing the data and to other ways of harm, to send emails, to spoof, to send some bogus bills to the partners who are in that user's mailbox and so on. So the multi-factor authentication is the easiest and quickest way to harden the identity security. So, and it's very easy to implement. From the multi-factor authentication point, nowadays the identity itself, meaning you can use it like if you have cloud services, you can use the cloud-only identity, or bigger organizations still have and probably will have in the future also the local identity service, for example, Microsoft Active Directory. So you can use with cloud and hybrid identity, and then you need to protect the identity also in the local environment and also in the cloud. So for the cloud, it's very good to use the Azure AD as the identity provider. So to use this also for other third-party applications. So the main idea is that for the organization, the identity management shouldn't be very complicated, meaning that all the third-party applications that the organizational users are using to do the job would be protected and also accessed with one common identity if possible. So nowadays there are a lot of applications that are already built in the Azure that you can do the identity integration. And if there aren't any, then there is also option to use the SAML 2.0 to do the integration so that the third-party application that is not in the Azure application gallery would use also the one single identity. And this is good for us because then we can set the policies in the Azure AD for the users. For example, conditional access policies, but what are the conditions that users can get access to the data? And of course, we can then deploy the multi-factor authentication from there. So it will give us easier way to handle the access to the applications, access to the data that the organization is using. But If you have also the local Active Directory, users are logging into the local Active Directory. There are also some applications in there. Then you also need to think about how to secure the identities in the local environment. So in here, you have possibilities like using the YubiKey, for example. If you have only local Active Directory, then you can use the YubiKey as smart card. So to use it as a FIDO2 key, fast identity online, you also need a hybrid environment. So then you need also have the Azure AD tenant in place, synchronize the users, groups, whatever, so on. And probably you are using already some kind of Microsoft 365 services, Teams, OneDrive, Exchange Online, and so on. Then it's easy to deploy the YubiKeys to be worked also in the local environment, in the hybrid identity. I will show you also a little presentation. So to protect users, currently should be already using the multi-factor authentication. So what are the options? The options are like those classical, traditional alternatives are the phone call or text message. Also, that will come with will give you the SMS will give you the one-time passcode, and the modern authentication ways for the multi-factor are the Authenticator, Windows Hello for Business, and of course YubiKey. So from the recommendation side, it's recommended that you don't use the text message or phone call as a multi-factor authentication. There might be some situations that you need to allow it, but then you need to accept the risk that it's not so secure multi-factor authentication as it is, for example, with the Authenticator, or of course with the security key, for example, YubiKey, because currently the security key and YubiKey is the securest way to secure the user's identity. And why isn't the phone call or text message so secure? Because, for example, if user is getting SMS, the info, the code, the MFA code is displayed on the lock screen. So if the bad guy gets the password, also somehow gets access to the device, and then they can get in with this user's identity and do some harm, steal data, and so on. Same goes for the phone call, because if somebody's calling in, you don't have to unlock the phone. So if the bad guy has the phone, they can answer the call, they can press the pound and get multi-factor authentication successfully done and get access to the data again. With the Microsoft Authenticator, there are two ways. You have one-time passcode that is generated every 30 seconds, or push notifications. So always users need to think about if there will come suddenly the push notification that are they getting somewhere also the screen for the multi-factor authentication. Otherwise, always click deny, even if it's in the background, it doesn't matter. If it's better to push it deny because you haven't initiated yourself actively. It might be that some session in your computer has ended, and it might be also the legal or the right multi-factor authentication asking, but it might also not be. So it's always better to be more cautious and click on deny. And if there's need, you can always do another multi-factor authentication request if you are accessing. And of course, with Microsoft Authenticator nowadays is that if you install it, it will automatically also be protected. It will use the same, for example, it will use the PIN you are using on your device, or it will use the biometrics. So if you are opening Authenticator, you also need to do some additional authentication, meaning biometrics or PIN. So it's making it more secure. example, if phone is unlocked and you use also the one-time passcode as multi-factor authentication, then the user can't get into the multi-factor authenticator. So making it more secure. And of course, Windows Hello, but Windows Hello itself is only for one device. Usually the key is holding the TPM module on the device. That it's making it more comfortable for the users. For example, I myself currently I'm using the same PO YubiKey, but I also have Windows Hello for Business configured, and I have been using Windows Hello for Business for years. And I'm the guy who is using with PIN, so it's very good to use it. And also, if the organization wishes, they can also block using the traditional password, for example, account password. So only with Windows Hello or with the security key, YubiKey, you can get access to the device. And of course, YubiKey, so which is the securest way, because currently nobody has hacked it. It hasn't been intercepted during, for example, some authentication sessions. So it's the securest way to use it for the multi-factor or to use it for passwordless authentication. Because nowadays the idea is that the future that is happening now is that going passwordless, because the bad guys are phishing for the username and password. So if there aren't any password to phish, so the identity is more secure, because users are using Authenticator, they are using YubiKey security keys, Windows Hello. It's depending where later on we will also talk about it. So here are the Microsoft passwordless solutions. Windows Hello for Business, which has been around for many years for now. From the latest ones is Microsoft Authenticator, which you can use for example, web sessions and so on, for authenticating against modern applications, but you can't use it for authenticating to the device. So this, I hope in the future will come, because at the moment you can't use Microsoft Authenticator passwordless signing to sign into your Windows, for example. Interesting is that you can use it with your Microsoft Live account, personal account, if you have, for example, Windows 10 or 11, and have also configured it for passwordless authentication, which I have. Then you can use it also in your personal device for the passwordless sign. So I hope in the future it will come also to the business side and in the enterprise and environments. And of course, FIDO2 security keys, they are now supported from the last year's March. So it has been around over a year now. And browsers that support passwordless authentication, Microsoft Edge, to be honest, there are more of them. There are Chrome, also Firefox. I'm using mostly Microsoft Edge, and also since there are different portals you need to access, so I use also Microsoft Chrome. So for me, the main two browsers are Chromium-based Edge and Microsoft Chrome. Okay, Microsoft Passwordless and Azure Active Directory, for example, if you have also only the cloud identity and your device is joined to the Azure AD, or you have Azure AD hybrid identity, then you can configure the passwordless authentication. Later on, I will show you also from the Azure AD, where is the passwordless authentication policy and other authentication policies options that the Azure AD is offering nowadays. So very simple. I will later on will show the demo also. Currently not. So very simple. You have the key. You put it in your device. It will ask for the PIN, or with PIO key, it will ask for the fingerprint. And with the PIN device, it will ask also the proof of presence. So you have to touch the key. For example, that you are the one behind the device and doing the authentication. After you touch the key, you will get access. There is also option to use the NFC. So you don't have to plug in the device if your device supports the NFC. And you are signed in. And since if the device is in the Azure Active Directory or in the local Active Directory, and it's Azure Active Directory hybrid joint device, SSO, single sign-on is configured, then usually you don't need anymore to use this key because you already have the tokens in your device and you are doing single sign-on to all the applications you need, and that are Microsoft applications or maybe some other third-party applications that you're using with Azure Active Directory when the active Azure AD is the identity provider. What are currently the keys that we have? So we have YubiKey 5 series. Like I showed you, I have two of them. I have Nano and USB A key. Also, I have YubiKey PIO, which is now the latest one. If I'm not mistaken, it came out like end of the last year, in the beginning of this year. I got my key a month back or so, and I have to say, very, very comfortable. And also NFC keys. So from the pricing point, USB YubiKey 5 series is around 40 to 50 euros. It's depending where you are getting those keys. The YubiKey PIO key is around 70, 80 euros. So, and currently I don't remember the price for NFC key, but it's kind of going to the same, like some 50 euros per key. So if starting to use the YubiKeys, then also you need to think about that you are giving out the key to the users. It's very simple to implement it from the administrative side and also from the user side. Just need to do the manuals. But you also, if you are starting to use, you should always have also some portion of keys for the backup, meaning that if somebody is forgetting their key home, if somebody is losing their key, then they will turn to the IT and they will need the new key. So then you can provide the user the new key and also, for example, allow them in somewhere to initiate this new key so they could get access to the devices. Overview of this YubiKey PIO. Later on, I will show it only like in private browsing in web. So very simple. One thing is that, of course, user needs to set the PIN. PIN is for how to say, for the backup. If, for example, fingerprint fails, or I don't know, you burn your fingerprints off, then you can always use the PIN also. It's for backup, and the user needs to add the PIN and also the fingerprints. I will show how later on how with Nano key how you will set the PIN on the key, but with YubiKey PIO you also need to show. You also need to add the fingerprints. And this is done by YubiKey with YubiKey Authenticator. With YubiKey Authenticator, one thing is that this needs to be run as administrator in some device. So it's depending on the process. For example, maybe users have some lapse password, meaning that they have the local administrative account, which is only to that device that the user has the password. So if there is need, they can like deploy some software and so on, or then they will turn to the IT. IT will run this, and then the user will take their YubiKey PO, put it in, and add the fingerprints. You can add up to 5 fingerprints. So there should be at least not 5 fingerprints from one hand, but at least, for example, 2 from one hand and 3 from other hand, just in case something is happening with your fingers. So, but it's maximum 5 fingerprints. Okay. Back to the slides for a moment. We are getting also to the end. Okay, very simple, and so it's multi-factor authentication also, and also a passwordless authentication. And passwordless authentication options for Microsoft Azure AD. Of course, Windows Hello for Business, using the PIN or biometrics with it. Microsoft Authenticator, which you will use, for example, not to log into the computer, but to log into the web services, to the, for example, email, Teams, WebPart, OneDrive, and so on. And FIDO2 security keys that you can use it, to be honest, everywhere. You can use it in logging only to the website. You can use it log into the device. And you can also use it to log in your mobile device. So because there are also, like there are also YubiKeys with USB-C and also with the Lightning port. And of course, NSA. So for example, I myself are using, how to say, in conjunction, I have YubiKey PO that I use for logging into to my device and to the web part of things. And also I use the Microsoft Authenticator for passwordless signing, also sometimes to the web parts or in mobile device. So, and I have also in my device the Windows Hello, just for in case if I lose my key and I can't get access to it separately. But to secure the identity in the future, I would do this way, that I would allow logging only on for those users who are handling most sensitive data in the organization. For them, I would allow only logging in with the YubiKey, because this is the securest way. And then depending on the worker profile, also allowing maybe for some of them Windows Hello for Business, Microsoft Authenticator, and so on. So it's also depending, but the most securest way, of course, is using the YubiKey. And of course, YubiKey, FIDO2 security keys are the passwordless authentication option. And to be honest, there are now few more. Later on, I will show also those policies. They are still in preview. One is using certificate. So you can generate a certificate for the user so that they can use to sign in without the password. And there is also option to do the SMS signing, but this would be only for some field workers, for example. Okay, so we are in the end of our PowerPoint. I will now share my screen. Okay, and here are the authentication methods in Azure Active Directory. I will quickly show also. It's, for example, I think most of the organizations currently have the hybrid identity, or if they are not using at all, they're starting to use Microsoft services, they are starting with hybrid identity. If they are bigger company and already have local environment directory service in place for authentication, management, and so on. So it's very simple to deploy, to configure the YubiKeys for Azure Active Directory passwordless sign-in. There is very good guide on the YubiKey webpage. So it's, to be honest, very simple, since if you have Azure AD hybrid identity, you will have Azure AD Connect. Then you will need to run some scripts. Okay, policy sites we will show later on. You will need to run scripts. For example, here it is in Azure AD Connect server. Okay, there are a few commands. You will need to run the Azure Kerberos PowerShell script. And kind of that's it. Then one more additional thing, you will need to enable it for the devices. Then you have three options. One is creating the provisioning package that you're giving out to the users. Best way, you already have in place some kind of device management, for example, endpoint management. Then you can do the endpoint management configuration profile and deploy the settings from there that it would ask for the security key. Or, of course, there is also the additional group policy object option. So everything is in the guide how to do it. And to be honest, it can be done in 30 minutes. So 30 minutes and it would be, the organization is ready for the passwordless sign-in. So from the Azure Active Directory side, you need to go to the security, authentication methods, and under policies, there is FIDO2 security keys policy. So you will add users in here who will be using. So like always with new things, you will do the step-by-step deployment, meaning you will have some portion of users, 5, 10, 20, whatever. So a portion of users for whom you will deploy it, you will run the scenarios through. For example, also you need to do the guide for the users, how to initiate the keys and add the PIN and so on. So you to do the test. So you will add users or groups in here who are the first users, and later on you can add, if everybody is using, you can add all users, for example. Okay, from configuration side, you also have some settings like allow self-service setup. Of course, we will allow it because user is the one who is adding the security to the key, for example, PIN or fingerprint. So it's only logical. Okay, let's go back to the authentication methods. And after you have done it, the user can go and initiate adding new key. Okay, let's do then one new key adding. I have this nano C YubiKey. I will add it to my device. Oops, I'll open in incognito window. I will open new because this is my device. Otherwise, I would have a single sign-on to everywhere. Okay, let's go to the portal.office.com. Oh, okay, let's do the sign-in then. Already have one key, so I will show you also. Oh, okay, I will do currently that. Let's show you then. This user also has Microsoft Authenticator as for passwordless signing. So you can see here is code. Okay, I will now open my device. I will also share the screen from the device. It has start broadcast. Okay. Okay, I will open the Authenticator in my device. As you can see, it will ask for authentication to access Authenticator. And I now need to put in the same number that is shown in the screen. So it's 26. I will put it in 26, yes. And it's asking for, again, for my Authenticator access code, and it's approved. And now I am signed in without password to the portal.office.com with Microsoft Authenticator passwordless authentication. Okay, so, but the new key, let's put it back in. So from here, I will take view account, go to the security. Okay, security information. Takes a bit time, like always with the website of the things. Security info here, it will show the current things that are in use. I already have, this user already, for example, has this USB-A key that we will very soon be using to log into the Windows 11 device. And we will add new key, add sign-in method. We will select security key, add. Okay, this is USB device, so we will select USB. Okay, security key, have your key ready. Okay, my key is already plugged in. Now it will take a little moment. Okay, external security key built-in sensor. Security key setup, yes. And now it will ask for me the PIN for the new security key. So I will add the PIN. 6 digits. Okay. Okay, now I also need to touch the proof of presence also when adding the initiating new key. Okay, touch the key and voila, the new key is initiated. Also, I will put some name in here. I can use both keys. If, for example, I don't know, I lose some key, then I would come and delete that key from here. So if somebody is finding the key, they can't use it for sign-in because they don't have the PIN. If they have PIN, no, then it's trouble. They don't have the PIN, they can't sign in. But it's very easy. Somebody who finds the key, they can re-initialize it, meaning they can delete it, and it can be taken to use. So very simple to do it in hybrid environment. Okay, let's close it now. So I will show you also how it works with, for example, the Windows device, signing in with the key. So let's have a little demo. You can see there is a Windows device in here. I have Windows 11. I have this USB-A key. So I want to sign in. I will plug in the key. It will already start asking me for the PIN. So I will will hide the camera for security purpose that you wouldn't see my PIN. Okay, I have written down, typed in the PIN. I will push enter. And it will ask for the proof of presence. Touch your security key. I will touch it and it's signed in now. So very simple, very easy. And the security keys are very sturdy also, meaning that you can wash them in washing machine, for example. Usually you don't do it on purpose, but accidentally you are forgetting your key in your pocket and you put your jeans to the washing machine, then it will survive it and it will work, continue working. So they are very sturdy. Okay, let's go back screen sharing. One more thing is that You can also do policy, meaning that what happens if somebody removes the key from the currently opened machine. So there are 3 options. One is that nothing will happen. Second is that it will lock the computer, which is the obvious option. And the third one is signing out the user. So it's not a good option if you have co-workers who like to do pranks on you. So it would not be nice that you have some open work in there and maybe you don't have, I don't know, autosave in some documents, and then somebody removes the key and you need to start all over. So the logical and best solution is to put that policy that after removing the key, security key, it will lock the computer. And if user adds the key back, they are asked for PIN or biometrics and they are logged back in again. Okay, but I will show, for example, my own the YubiKey bio. If I log into the Microsoft environment, for example, let's click again in private browsing, portal.com. Okay, did a little typo. Okay, let's take a new tab. Okay, I will put my own username. Next. It will ask for password at the first, but I have sign in with the security key in here. So I will click in here. Okay. And now it doesn't ask for PIN. I will only touch with my enrolled fingerprint finger, and it's signing me in. So very nice and very comfortable to use this BioKey. Okay, let's check some more things that Microsoft has put in the authentication methods, for example, that also can be then used with passwordless authentication. So we covered Microsoft Authenticator. There are some, again, there is policy. You can do targeted enrollment. There are some, how to say, things that need to be considered. For example, to use the Microsoft Authenticator for passwordless sign-in, the user needs to already have enrolled MFA, as they always should if the account is created. And they need to use the notification option of the Microsoft Authenticator MFA. So if you are using one-time passcode, then you need to go back at first, configure the Microsoft Authenticator to be with notifications, to work with notifications. And after that, you can configure in the Authenticator application the passwordless authentication. Of course, after you have been added to the authentication methods policy. So with YubiKeys, there are also some limitations. For example, we can't use the YubiKey for accessing RDS servers, terminal servers. So it can't be used in there at the moment. And also we can't use it for administrators to log into the servers for the management purpose. So these are currently the limitations. Of course, if you are using it as smart card, then you can do it, because if you don't have any any hybrid environment, you are using only local, then you can use it as a smart card, but then you are losing portion of the functionality because, for example, in smart card functionality, it's not asking for the proof of presence. It's so it's not so secure anymore, like it would be that it's also checking that somebody is behind that device. And yeah, for then what would I do with RDS, for example? Because I would like to have it also, if I have some local or doesn't matter, maybe in Azure AD, I have some RDS servers, then you can use, if you have Active Directory, and then you can use Network Policy Server with add-in, and with Remote Desktop Gateway, you can then enforce the Office 365 Azure multi-factor authentication in the RDS environment also. So if the user is logging into the terminal server, they are asked for the multi-factor authentication, which is the same they are using for the Microsoft Office 365 environment. So very good to put them together. And of course, in the hybrid environment, if there are still some applications or data, usually if you are applications, web-based applications, then maybe not, and they don't need to use anything else, I would not use the VPN for that, giving them access. Then I would use the Azure Active Directory. I would use the, what was the name, Azure Proxy, application proxy for that, because with application proxy, I can publish this local web-based application through the Azure to the users, so without needing to do any open ports to the inside. So it will be proxied to the application proxy to Azure AD, so we can access from there. And if accessing through, for example, through Azure AD, then they are using for the access all those conditional access policies, multi-factor authentication, and so on, to get access to this application outside the organization. But for example, if there is need to get access to data in the local environment and also using VPN, then you also need to cover the VPN with multi-factor authentication. So currently already YubiKey is also supported, for example, like Cisco, but currently I don't know more, because with Cisco I had the need to find it out. So I will also look up for FortiGate, because we use FortiGate a lot in our client environments, and currently we are using Azure multi-factor authentication, which again can be used through Network Policy Server, and with the Azure MFA add-in, and it can be used to then enforce the same Azure multi-factor authentication if user is like connecting with FortiClient to the local environment. So, and also the checkpoint supports Azure MFA, Palo Alto, and so on. So this is one thing that needs to be like using multi-factor authentication in environments. But then there is also in hybrid environment, you have like covered the cloud part, but there is users are using also VPN, and it's not covered with any like MFA or additional security. With YubiKey, then it's one hole that can be exploited by the bad guys again. So this also needs to be covered. Okay, from the Microsoft authentication methods, let's then check quickly what are the new things in here, like text message. So Text message is for, like I said before, it's for the field workers or some partners who need to get access to our organization, and we are creating them the account in our environment, also licensing them, for example, with Microsoft 365 F1 license. Then we have option, we can give them YubiKey, but usually not, it's depending. Maybe this partner only needs access to Teams or something like that to give some info to Teams, and they don't get access to sensitive data. But we need to have the possibility to get them accessing data as quickly and as comfortable as possible. Then there is option to use text message. And what does it mean? It means that I also have one user in here. Again, we have the policy here. Let the user in here. Okay, I will take this user. Then I need to go to the user for whom I enabled it. Okay, this is not the user. I will take the special user, create SMS, and I need to add it as an authentication method for that user. I already have done it, but it can be done here. Add authentication method, phone number, and it will ask for the phone number. So let's see. Okay. And this phone number needs to be unique in this Azure Active Directory. And then we can tell to that user that, okay, you can now connect to our Teams and you can use your own phone number as a username. So I will show it. Okay. Here. Okay, I will put in the phone number. It will send the SMS to me. Okay. I have disabled notifications for the seminar. Let's see. Yep, got the key. 3. Okay, since I have done it in the past also in the other test tenant, so, and the user is signed in, so only thing they needed is, if there are some field workers that need quick access, then only then I would use this. And they are not accessing any important data, but it's easy way to tell that, okay, what's your phone number, create account, add some license, do the permissions strictly where they get access, and then tell that, okay, you can now log in, put in as the username your mobile phone number, you will get SMS and you will get access. So this is one new option to use to give access to the, for example, some field workers or partners. And there is one additional option, temporary access pass. This is then used for passwordless world. So this is the policy. We can create a temporary password for the user, so they could log in with this temporary password and then, for example, enroll their Microsoft Authenticator for passwordless authentication, enroll their YubiKeys for the passwordless authentication. So we have in the policy, we have option how long what is the minimum lifetime of this temporary password, maximum lifetime, default lifetime, and is it a one time or they can use it during this 8 hours, they can use it more than once. So if wishing to be secure, then you will put it as one time and they can't use it anymore, this key, but In that case, you need to consider that if the, I don't know, session or something happening with the user browser, then they can't use this key again, and they will ask for the new temporary access pass. And to create the temporary access pass again, we will need to go to the user, add authentication method, add temporary access pass. There are things that can't work together. For example, if doing the temporary access pass or the passwordless authentication, then you can't use this SMS authentication. So it can be used only as a one authentication method, this SMS authentication. But for the temporary access pass, I only will show you how it's generated. Okay, I can do the start time, end time, when the password will work. Example, I will put next Monday start time. Okay, add, and it will show me the password. But then we will share the link to the user, MS security info. User can go in there with this temporary access password, get signed in, and configure the passwordless authentication method that they will start using. Okay, I will delete this. Otherwise, somebody in the Monday will start configuring account. So, okay. And the last one of authentication methods I haven't used yet. This is the newest one. So it's certificate-based authentication. We need to generate a certificate for the user, and then we can give them a possibility to use the applications and authentication with the certificate. So, okay. So to summarize it up, I recommend using or thinking about moving to the passwordless world. Best way to do it is with YubiKeys and in conjunction with Microsoft Authenticator. And the best way is to, if you have Microsoft environment, but it will work also with different other environments. For example, you can use it also in Google environment. You can use it in your personal life. YubiKeys, you can use it for the Facebook and so on. I hope you are already everybody using also multi-factor authentication in your personal accounts, because work accounts are very important, but also your personal accounts. They also need to be protected with multi-factor authentication. And if security is something you live by, then also using YubiKey for your personal life and also in the work life. So you can use one key for one environment. You can't use it like in multiple environments. So if you are using it already in Office 365, then you won't be using your work key for your personal life anyway. Yeah, and identity is very important, but always it's only one part of this bigger security picture, meaning device management, endpoint management, data protection, governance, compliance, and so on. So it's one very important part of a big circle of security, which with YubiKey can be made very secure. Okay, let's see if you have any questions also. Nope, currently no questions. So I hope everything was clear. If there is anything, I don't know, that you feel that, oh, okay, would like to now test it or do the POC, of course, contact us. We'll help you. We will configure it. We'll help to the user information and so on, and help to boot it up and start using it. So, like always, maybe if you are a bigger organization, then buying for everybody, it might seem costly. Then like I said, you can start doing the work profiles, meaning users who are handling sensitive data, they will get the security key. Users who don't get access to the sensitive data, they can use, for example, Microsoft Authenticator, or they also get the security key. So if there aren't any questions, then I thank you, everybody. I hope it was useful. And if anything, you can contact Prement. We are in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and you can go to our homepage, priment.lv, priment.ee, priment.lt, priment.com, and get contacts from there and ask if anything is needed. So thank you and have a nice day.